Ember Knights is a co-op roguelike game. It was developed by Doom Turtle and was released in 2023. I've been playing this for the past 2 weeks with a few friends and simply put, fire. Hey, I'm Josephu. Today we're going to be looking at Ember Knights. Now, I don't really play roguelikes, alright? I'm not very good at them. I don't really like them, but I've played a number of them. The best one I've played is Risk of Rain 2. Fire game, loads of different gameplay options, loads of different characters. Soundtrack was a bomb. This was different. I like this game for completely different reasons than I like Risk of Rain 2. Soundtrack in Ember Knights, not very inspired, not gonna lie, but it made me nostalgic. But I haven't played this game before. See, it reminded me a lot of a game I used to play called Castle Crashers. You know Castle Crashers. Anyone who had Xbox 360 knows Castle Crashers. It was an old school arcade game that you'd hop on and play with your boys. A little bit of story mode, kind of very similar to this one. But it wasn't about the gameplay. You didn't play Castle Crashers for the gameplay. You played it because it was a fun, colourful experience to play with your friends. And that's exactly what I got out of this game. Although this game is more complicated than Castle Crashers, in other ways, it isn't as complicated at all. See, while in Castle Crashers, it's not a roguelike, okay? Simple as. It's an adventure game where you follow a campaign. Simple campaign, basically the exact same as this one, except it's a lot more complicated in Castle Crashers. See, in Castle Crashers, you find a bad wizard, he's done a bad thing, and you have to chase him down and punish him for being bad. In this game, you have to hunt down the bad wizard because he's done something bad. You might see some similarity now. There's basically an evil wizard, and you have to kill him once. Then he resets the world, and you have to kill him again. That's literally the story, there's nothing else to it. There's a few NPCs that you can do basically side quests for, collecting a certain resource in order to upgrade their utility, but that's about it. It's basically like just unlocking items as you go in Risk of Rain, except they have an NPC on the front. So in truth, there's not much of a story. You're an Ember Knight, you're a being that was spawned in at the Earth's peril when it needed it most, and you hunted down the bad guy who sucked all the life out of this Ember tree. That's literally it. You gotta protect the Prime Worlds, which are essentially Super Mario worlds. Now let's talk about what's actually important, okay? Because the story of roguelike games, it doesn't really matter, okay? I've been told this game plays like Hades. I wouldn't know because I haven't played it. While I can see the similarities, it's a top-down perspective roguelike game that has an emphasis on combat. The combat differentiates itself from each character due to the weapon that they're using. I've been told this is like Hades. There's two ways that you can differentiate yourself from your friend. For example, there's skills. Every character gets 2 skills, or can equip 2 skills, and they have their unique weapon. Now the unique weapon is very interesting because it can have many different types of moveset that you can upgrade throughout playing the game. You just have to get to the 4th level and save this robot, and then he starts to upgrade your stuff for you. The variety in the movesets throughout upgrading is actually pretty significant. I was really surprised to see the fact that you can change the entire moveset of a weapon and actually completely change what type of build you could go with that weapon. I went bow for the longest time, and I'd always go pierce shot because it's the only one that was really viable. But then I noticed that you can get this volley of arrows, which made AoE a big promising factor for me. See, using the bow, you're safe from a distance, but also you hit people a lot. So I used to go on hit or crit, which is basically the same thing in the late game. This allowed me to pick up items that healed me a crazy amount, but also I was playing safe, so I'd get damage a lot less anyway. But doing the AoE allowed me to go for fire and poison, which is really good in the AoE effect because it comes with a lot of stun abilities that you can get throughout items. Each run you're going to discover more items that unlock more items for you. This comes in the way of items that you simply take onto your character, or skills that you can unlock, as I said, the 2 selected skills. These skills can go anywhere from a ballista that is just an auto turret, or a black hole that you can send out flying in front of you that sucks all enemies in, allowing you to hit many AoE attacks on many enemies. This adds a level of depth, you could say, in some degree. It allows you to want to keep going back to unlock new and unique items that could change your runs in the future. So basically playing, so when you play again, it will be different. Another way of getting stronger throughout dungeons or levels is through gems. Gems give you a up in one of your stats. Precision gives you crit, damage is damage, health is health, speed is speed, etc, etc. And this actually allows you to branch out and change how you might play in co-op. See, my friend used to just basically do all melee, and he would do slow melee too. He would pick things like the hammer and the sword, which are the slowest weapons in the game. But every time I would play bow. So meaning that I would go for agility and crit, while he would go for health and damage. This allowed us to split up the gems evenly between us, between those two stats, and let my friend, who's taken all the hits, be healthier, and me, who is staying from far away, get crit, so I'm able to heal more, because there's an item that lets you heal on crit. Pretty good item. There's loads of other different synergies you can do. You know, the game is limitless in that regard, and it's really interesting to see how things can play into one another in co-op play. Things that you are only able to pull off late game solo, you can pull off in multiplayer straight away, because you can get items that stun straight away, while your friend has items that burn straight away. So you're able to proc a burn on someone who's stunned and then hit them for more damage, or some crap like that. The game has a fairly diverse pool of enemies, although it does get samey, because each world has the same enemies every time you go into that world. And there is only 5 worlds. You start off in the normal forest land, which has worms and bugs, essentially. And these guys don't change much at all. The bosses change, they get variants, but the enemies stay the same. There's a mosquito guy, the very first mini boss / boss you'll ever come up with. And he differentiates himself because he can shoot tornadoes or shoot areas of poison or blood-sucking areas. But other than that, his moveset is identical every time. I think this is the only area that the game should put some work into. There is only 5 areas, and there's not procedurally generated areas, so they all kind of feel the same. Although this hurts replayability, it isn't impossible to enjoy it. The bosses are pretty unique. No one boss feels the same as the next boss. They're all different in that regard. Although they have variants of themselves individually to play against, actually adds a bit of substance. But the first time you come across each boss, it is an incredibly unique experience, and actually relatively challenging, because you have to learn their moveset, because if you don't, you're just going to get hit loads. The only boss that I would say this doesn't apply to is the snow golem in this 3rd area of the game. He's a total wimp. But the big guy that comes after him, he can dick you down. Now there is a few unique unlockables in the game that are pretty cool. Basically every skin is a little hidden trophy that you can find. There's one thing that comes to mind. There's 2 walls in the game, one made of ice, one out of stone. If you have the bomb skill, you can blow up the stone wall. If you have the fire skill, you can, you know, melt down the ice wall. Once you walk into each room that you've burnt away into, or blown away into, you can get a skin. It's pretty cool. Change how your guy looks. It's pretty cool, pretty lit. Well, that's basically where the customizing stops. You get reskins, and that's it. When you use a weapon, it changes the appearance of your character, which is something I would like to do. I'd like a bit more customization to make my guy mine. But some customization is better than none, I guess. Apparently it's blowing up like crazy on the Switch, because, you know, maybe it's an actual good game that fuck can run. It's a really good game. You should play it. You should really give it a go. Subscribe.